So, I'm back on here again to discuss, how Palm Color yet again is trying to rewrite history the best way they know how, but the internet is going to find a way to defeat that, at least if you go and search in the right places. So this is Ron Desantis, or in some circles call him Ron Desantis, and I don't think I came up with that one. But if it's your first time hearing it be said, then it is what it is. And basically, the Florida Board of Education approved Ron DeSantis' rule of banning critical race theory. Now, I kind of talked about this on a live stream that I did a couple weeks ago, and how they can try their best to run from their history, but they can't necessarily hide from it, and nor can they really hide people from it, to be quite honest, because the information is out there. All you have to do is really just go and do proper research and you'll find it. So with them constantly doing all of this, it wasn't in a live stream, it was in a regular video. With them constantly doing all of this, it doesn't surprise me. And ironically, the other place that I talked about that was trying to ban critical race theory, no, it was Texas. They wanted to ban the talk about Dub S, which is basically a link to CRT when you kind of think about it. And that doesn't surprise me too. Florida and Texas, they are like night and day. It's like a waste of time. It's laughable at this point, because like I said, we are in the information age. We are in the digital age. Everybody, has access for the most part to the internet. If they wanted to look up some information that they know wasn't being taught in schools, they could go ahead and do so. Proper research, of course. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this article and see what else that they're talking about. The Florida Board of Education on Thursday approved a rule that Governor Ron DeSantis advanced in order to ban teaching certain ideas about race and history. The rule reads, instruction on the required topics must be factual and objective and may not suppress or distort significant historical events such as the Holocaust, and may not define American history as something other than the creation of a new nation based largely on universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence. Now, really pay attention to their rule. They said they may not suppress or distort significant historical events such as the Holocaust. Notice that it only said that you cannot speak against the Holocaust, but anything else, especially American chattel slavery, that's not included. They told on themselves with that one statement right there. But to be honest, they didn't even have to say that. But for contextual purposes, I'm glad that they did. And it says, may not define American history as something other than the creation of a new nation based largely on universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence. Basically, they don't want anything to be talked about except the greatness or the overcoming of white people. Basically is what it all boils down to. If it goes against that, then they don't want it. And they will only talk, and they only want to talk about, like I said, white people when they're overcoming something that affected them and only them. But if they did something to affect another group of people, like let's say black people, black American people specifically, that can't be talked about, because that shows them in a very bad light. The rule came as part of a broader push by DeSantis and other Republicans to eliminate what they say are manifestations of critical race theories in school. DeSantis' office told Fox News that the rule excludes the term critical race theory because CRT isn't the only issue. No child should be classified as a victim or oppressor based on their race or ethnicity, said DeSantis Press Secretary Christina Pashaw. Race essentialism in any form is destructive, especially in a diverse society where each person should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. They love to use that MLK line so much. That's exactly where they got it from. But the point of the matter is, palm colored, every person is judged by how they look and not so much the content of their character. In a perfect world, it would be the latter and not the former. But see, here's the thing right here. Palm colored, y'all created this caste system based on race. Y'all created this society based on the social construct of race. And you're trying to run from it by trying to hide it and shield it so the quote unquote new generation coming up won't have to deal with it. Here's the crazy part. I just did a video about a man who took his child out of school because of critical race theory and tried to put him in a private school or whatever the case. But here's the thing. And I still lean heavily on this. What are they teaching their kids at home that they don't want exposed as a lie when they get to school? See, the thing is, they're telling their kids one thing, the school is telling them something else. And then somewhere, the kid is going to figure out which one is the lie and which one is the truth. And I'm willing to bet that the lie came from the mouth of their parents. See, the thing is, they got to keep this lie going. They have to keep it flowing. It's been going on for so long, and they can't afford for the lie to just fall by the wayside and just die. Because how else will they remain in power? To remain in power also means that you have to brainwash the masses to fall and step in line in the way that you do, or for as much as you possibly can. Control. Arguments about CRT in history tend to revolve around assertions in the 1619 Project, a controversial piece that argues the institution of slavery was the nation's true founding. According to its author, it also casts doubts on how U.S. history has traditionally been taught by emphasizing slavery's influence on American society. In a webinar last month, author Nicole Hannah-Jones plainly stated that her project was intended to be supplemental to standard curriculum and that it was intentionally making an argument how to view U.S. history. Critics of anti-CRT measures have expressed concern that Republicans are forcing teachers to whitewash some of the injustices perpetrated against minorities in the U.S. Andrew Spar, who serves as president of Florida's Teachers Union, argued that students deserve the best education we can provide, and that means giving them a true picture of their world and our shared history as Americans. Hiding facts doesn't change them. According to the Orlando Sentinel, the union agreed with the conservatives' insistence on teaching key documents like the Declaration of Independence, but also wanted that those that reflect a more diverse America than are represented in our founding documents. Basically saying that don't cheat the white portion only. When they keep talking about Declaration of Independence, let's be real here. That was for white people by white people, under the disguise that it was for everybody. Gregory Sampson, a high school teacher in Jacksonville, said, "I don't think the governor and his fellow Republicans really understand what critical race theory does." He added, it's not a criticism, it's a critique, a way of looking at how history has unfolded. DeSantis' office has maintained, however, that rather than encourage critical thinking, emerging social studies curricula are teaching students what to think or indoctrinating them rather than how to think. That's what these schools have been doing for years, even before the topic of critical race theory was even a thing. The bottom line and objective of education is not to introduce ideology and fight political battles. It's to prepare our students to be great citizens, said DeSantis Communications Director Taryn Finsky in a statement to Fox News. It's not telling you what to think, but how to think, and to think critically, with the ultimate goal of ensuring Florida students become well-rounded, civically minded, productive members of society. Let me read that again. It's not telling you what to think. Actually, it is. When they do this, they're telling people what they want them to think. They want them to be like them or think like them. And it says, but how to think. You're not teaching them how to think nothing, because to be a person of how to think or how to thinker means that you're doing the proper research and you're studying everything, not just what you put in front of us. Like, they contradict themselves all throughout every quote that they made in this article. And they use little fancy words and things that words aren't even that fancy to try to confuse people. They ain't confusing me. With the ultimate goal of ensuring Florida students become well-rounded, civically minded, productive members of society. Listen, they can run from their past or their ancestors' past, but they cannot hide from it. They can do all of this, but it ain't gonna mean shit. It's not. That's why I said it is a waste of time to do this. But I'm actually kind of glad that they are, because it's literally exposing themselves even more, and they don't even realize. Or maybe they do and they just don't care. But at the end of the day, exposure is exposure, or exposing themselves is exposing themselves.